Harold Hogue, Ole Anderson, Kevin Sullivan, and Sid Vicious are four prominent figures in the world of professional wrestling, each contributing in significant ways to the evolution of the sport. Their careers spanned several decades, and they were part of wrestling's rise as a mainstream entertainment force. However, despite their fame and accomplishments, their lives have been touched by tragedy, as all four passed away in 2024. This essay will explore their personal biographies, professional careers, and the circumstances surrounding their deaths, examining how each of these individuals left an indelible mark on the wrestling world. Harold Hogue, Ice Train. Harold Hogue, better known by his ring names Ice Train and later M.I., Smooth was born on August 1, 1967 in the United States. Hogue's wrestling career began in the early 1990s when he joined World Championship Wrestling, WCW, one of the most prominent wrestling organizations in the United States. He made his debut under the name Ice Train in 1993 and quickly became known for his imposing physical presence and charismatic personality. At 6'9" and weighing around 350 pounds, Hogue was a force to be reckoned with in the ring. Throughout his time in WCW, Hogue participated in several notable storylines and feuds. One of his most prominent angles occurred when he teamed up with Scott Norton to form the tag team known as Fire and Ice. Their partnership highlighted Hogue's brute strength and Norton's technical skill. However, the two eventually parted ways, leading to a heated rivalry that culminated in a series of matches. Hogue also worked with WCW in its later years as part of the stable The New Blood, which aimed to portray younger and fresher talent within the company. Under his new moniker, M.I., Smooth Hogue became a key player in the mid-card of WCW during the final years of the promotion before it was bought by WWE in 2001. After WCW's closure, Hogue stepped away from the spotlight, appearing sporadically in the independent wrestling circuit. He returned to the ring in 2019 for a one-off appearance in Europe, where he wrestled Dave Taylor to a no contest. Despite leaving the ring, Hogue remained a beloved figure among fans, especially those who followed WCW in the 1990s. Tragically, Harold Hogue passed away on January 23, 2024, at the age of 56. The exact cause of his death has not been publicly disclosed, but his passing was confirmed by several wrestling figures, including Diamond Dallas Page, who shared the news on social media. Hogue's death was met with an outpouring of tributes from fans and fellow wrestlers who remembered him as a kind and generous figure behind the scenes with a memorable presence in the ring. Kevin Sullivan, born on October 26, 1949 in Boston, Massachusetts, is another legendary figure in professional wrestling, known for his work as both a wrestler and a booker. Sullivan began his wrestling career in the 1970s, working for various regional promotions before gaining prominence in championship wrestling from Florida CWF. It was during his time in Florida that Sullivan developed the dark, satanic gimmick that would define much of his wrestling persona. Known for his sinister promos and his work as a heel, Sullivan led a faction called the Army of Darkness, which played on themes of the occult and black magic. His feud with Dusty Rhodes during this period became one of the most iconic rivalries in the history of Florida wrestling. In the 1990s, Sullivan transitioned to World Championship Wrestling, WCW, where he worked both as a performer and as part of the booking committee. He was instrumental in shaping some of WCW's most important storylines, including the rise of the New World Order, NWO, and the company's rivalry with WWE during the Monday Night Wars. Sullivan's influence behind the scenes was significant, though he was often a polarizing figure due to his booking decisions and the power struggles that defined WCW during this era. Sullivan continued to wrestle well into the 1990s, even engaging in a memorable feud with Chris Benoit that blurred the lines between fiction and reality. Sullivan's career as a booker ended with WCW's demise in 2001, and he spent the following years working in various independent promotions and making occasional appearances on the wrestling convention circuit. Kevin Sullivan passed away in 2024 at the age of 74. While his death marked the end of a career that spanned more than 5 decades, Sullivan's legacy as one of wrestling's most innovative and controversial figures remains intact. His work as both a performer and a creative force behind the scenes helped shape professional wrestling during one of its most important periods. Born Alan Robert Rogowski on September 22, 1942, Ole Anderson is best known as one of the founding members of the legendary wrestling stable, the Four Horsemen. He began his wrestling career in the 1960s and quickly established himself as a key figure in the American Wrestling Association, AWA, and National Wrestling Alliance, NWA. Anderson was famous for his no-nonsense, tough-as-nails persona. And he became one half of the successful tag team known as the Minnesota Wrecking Crew alongside his kayfabe brother, Gene Anderson. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, Ole Anderson worked as both a wrestler and a booker for several promotions, including Georgia Championship Wrestling and Jim Crockett Promotions. His impact as a booker was significant, helping to shape many of the storylines and matches that defined Southern wrestling during that era. In 1985, he, along with Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, his kayfabe cousin, and Tully Blanchard, formed the Four Horsemen, a heel stable that would go on to become one of the most iconic factions in wrestling history. Anderson's rough, methodical style in the ring and his ability to convey a cold, calculating villain made him an ideal member of the Horsemen. In the later years of his career, Anderson transitioned from in-ring competition to behind-the-scenes work, taking on a role as a booker for World Championship Wrestling, WCW-CW. His tenure at WCW, however, was not without controversy as he clashed with figures like Vince McMahon and Eric Bischoff. Anderson was eventually ousted from his executive position in WCW, but his contributions to the sport as both a performer and a creative mind are undeniable. In 2007, it was revealed that Anderson had been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a degenerative disease that significantly impacted his health in his later years. Despite his health issues, Anderson remained a respected figure in the wrestling community. On February 27, 2024, Ole Anderson passed away at the age of 81. While the exact cause of death was not immediately disclosed, his battle with multiple sclerosis had been widely known for years. His death marked the end of an era, as Anderson was one of the last surviving members of the original Four Horsemen. Tributes poured in from across the wrestling world, with many remembering him as a pioneering figure who helped shape professional wrestling during its most formative years. Sid Eudy, better known by his ring names Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid, and Sid Justice, was born on December 16, 1960, in West Memphis, Arkansas. Sid rose to prominence in the late 1980s and 1990s thanks to his imposing size, standing 6'0" and often menacing persona. He began his career in the Continental Wrestling Association before moving to World Championship Wrestling, WCW, and later the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, now WWE. Sid quickly gained a reputation for his explosive power in the ring and his charismatic presence. In the early 1990s, he worked for WWF under the name Sid Justice, where he was positioned as a top star and even headlined WrestleMania VII in a match against Hulk Hogan. He later returned to WCW, where he became part of the Four Horsemen before embarking on a successful singles career. Sid's peak came in the mid-1990s when he won multiple world championships in both WWF and WCW. Sid's career was not without its difficulties as he dealt with injuries and other setbacks, including a notoriously brutal leg injury in 2001 during a WCW event that effectively ended his full-time wrestling career. Despite these challenges, Sid remained a fan favorite due to his larger-than-life persona and his ability to play both a dominant villain and a beloved anti-hero. Sid Eudy passed away on August 26, 2024, at the age of 63. His death was met with shock and sadness from fans and wrestlers alike, as Sid was one of the most recognizable figures from wrestling's Attitude Era. His legacy as a two-time WWF champion and a multiple-time WCW World Heavyweight Champion, combined with his unforgettable feuds with some of the biggest names in wrestling, ensures that he will be remembered as one of the most dominant big men in professional wrestling history. In conclusion, Harold Hogue, Ole Anderson, Kevin Sullivan, and Sid Vicious were all key figures in the world of professional wrestling, each leaving a unique mark on the industry. Their careers were filled with memorable moments, and their contributions helped shape the sport during some of its most important periods. The wrestling world lost these four legends in 2024, but their legacies will live on through the countless fans and wrestlers they inspired.